I met Jake Turner when I was 14. He was the kind of boy you notice instantly. Not because he was loud or flashy, no. It was the quiet confidence. The way he carried a backpack like it weighed nothing. How he always held the door open, even when no one thanked him. He had that all-American smile, like a secret only he shared with the sun. And me. I was invisible. At least, that's how it felt whenever he walked by. We went to the same high school in northern Michigan. Small town. 2 stoplights. Everyone knew everyone, except me. My family had just moved from Columbus. Dad took a teaching job at the community college. Mom stayed home trying to make the new place feel like home. But I missed the noise of city life. Jake was in my English class. He sat 2 rows over, always tapping his pencil to the rhythm of some song I never knew. His eyes were the color of lake water in the fall. Clear, cold, beautiful. I never spoke to him. For 7 years. I loved him in silence. I memorized the slope of his shoulders, the crinkle in his eyes when he laughed, the way his voice dipped when he was nervous. He never noticed me. Or maybe he did, but he never said anything. Freshman year of college, I chose the same university he did. I told myself it was coincidence. It wasn't. He majored in mechanical engineering. I majored in journalism. 2 different buildings, 2 different worlds. But I still saw him. The student union, on campus sidewalks, at that little coffee shop with the overwatered ferns. And every time I did, my heart forgot how to beat. I dated other people, went to parties, smiled for photos I never looked at again. But instead, he was the only person who felt real. I told myself stories about us, little daydreams I kept locked behind my eyes. Maybe one day he'd see me, really see me. Smile that smile, say my name. But that day didn't come. Not until the fall of senior year. I was walking through campus late one afternoon. The sun low, sky orange like fire behind the trees. I had just finished an interview for the student paper. My recorder was still in my pocket. And then I saw him. Standing by the bike rack, struggling with his lock. He looked up. Eyes met. And for the first time, he smiled at me. "Hey," he said like we were old friends. My throat tightened, forced a nod. "Hi." He stepped closer. "You're Emma, right? You write for the paper." My heart nearly stopped. He knew my name. I wanted to run, or cry, or laugh. Instead I just said, "Yeah, I do." He nodded. "I liked your piece on Dr. Chan's class. That guy's impossible." Smiled. It was automatic. Years of dreaming couldn't prepare me for this moment. "Thanks. I didn't think anyone actually read it." He laughed. "I did. You're funny." Funny. No one had ever called me that before. We stood there in silence for a moment. But it wasn't awkward. It was heavy with something new. Something like possibility. Then he asked me, "Do you maybe want to grab coffee sometime?" Coffee. Like normal people do. I nodded before I could even think. "Yeah, I'd like that." He smiled. "Cool. Tomorrow. Around 4. "Sure." He waved as he walked off. And just like that, 7 years of silence cracked open. That night I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart racing. All those years of being background noise. And now I was center stage. But deep inside me, something didn't feel real. Like the moment was too perfect. Like I was waiting to wake up. The next day I showed up early. Wore the only dress I owned that made me feel brave. And he was already there. Smiling like the sun belonged to him. We talked for hours, laughed, shared stories. And he looked at me like he saw the sky in my eyes. I floated home afterward. It had finally happened. He noticed me. Maybe, just maybe, he felt it too. But dreams have shadows. Sometimes, Love isn't the whole story. He texted me that night. Just a simple, "Had a great time today," smiley face. I stared at the screen for 20 minutes, smiling like a fool, then replied, "Me too," with one too many exclamation points. I deleted it, typed it again, finally just sent, "Me too. Really liked talking to you." Safe, simple. But my heart was doing backflips. For the next few days we talked constantly, texting between classes, sharing songs, memes, inside jokes that made no sense to anyone else. He'd tell me about his long nights in the engineering lab, and I'd tell him about my weird interviews for the student paper. Felt easy, natural, like maybe we hadn't just met, like maybe I had always been there, just waiting for him to see me. And now he did, but some part of me, some old part, kept whispering, "Don't get too comfortable." We went on 3 more coffee dates, each one a little longer, a little more personal. By the 4th one he reached across the table and took my hand, just like that. His fingers were warm, rough from working on engines or whatever it was he did. My breath caught in my throat. "Emma," he said softly, "I like being around you. You're easy to talk to. I feel like I can actually breathe when I'm with you." I swallowed hard, tried to act cool, even though every nerve in my body was on fire. "I like being around you too," I said. He smiled, and I knew I was falling, not just in love, vapor, into a place I didn't even know existed. He kissed me that night. Just a soft, careful kiss as we stood outside the coffee shop. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't movie magic. It was better. It was real. I remember leaning into it, like I'd waited forever for that exact moment. Because I had 7 years of silence, of watching from a distance, of wishing. Now I was here. And he was holding me like I belonged to this world. The world where girls like me, held, got kissed by boys like Jake Turner. After that night, we weren't just talking anymore. He started walking me to class, waiting for me outside the library, texting me good morning every single day. People noticed, some smiled, some raised eyebrows, especially her, Maya, Jake's ex. They dated the year before, broke up over the summer, but apparently she hadn't fully moved on. She was tall, beautiful, confident in ways I could never fake. I saw her looking at us once in the dining hall, her eyes like steel. Jake noticed too. He just squeezed my hand and said, "Ignore it." So I did, or I tried, but that old voice inside me, the one that lived off fear and doubt, got louder. "He's too good for you. He'll go back to her. You're just a temporary fix." I hated that voice, but I couldn't always ignore it, because deep down, I still didn't believe I deserved this, that someone like him could really want someone like me. One night, we sat in his truck under a blanket of stars, parked by the lake outside town. The water was still. The world was quiet. He looked at me and whispered, "I feel safe with you." And I didn't know what to say. No one had ever said that to me before. Not even my parents. Not my friends. Not the guys I dated before who never saw past my smile. But Jake did. He saw me. And that scared me more than anything. Because what if he stopped? What if one day he woke up and I was just background again? What if all of this was temporary? One night about a month in, I saw something I wasn't supposed to. We were at a party. His friend's birthday. Crowded house. Loud music. Cheap beer. Jake went to get us drinks. I stood near the stairs, scrolling my phone. And then I looked up and saw him in the kitchen with Maya. Stuffing. She touched his arm. He didn't pull away. My stomach dropped. It was only a second, maybe 2, but it felt like a lifetime. I turned away, pretended I didn't see it. He came back with drinks, smiling, like nothing happened, but everything in me was already breaking. I didn't say anything that night, didn't ask, didn't accuse. I just smiled, and let him kiss my forehead. But my mind was spiraling. What if I was just the rebound? The safe girl. The easy one. The next morning I couldn't help myself. Asked him, "Do you still talk to Maya?" He blinked, caught off guard. "Sometimes. I mean, we're not enemies or anything." He nodded, but my chest was tightening. "She still wants you," I said quietly. He looked at me, eyes soft. "But I don't want her." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But my heart, it had been silent too long. Now it was loud, confused, afraid, and I didn't know how to quiet it. So I changed the subject, laughed, made a joke, buried it. But the crack had formed. And cracks, they only get bigger with time. That weekend he got busy. Didn't text as much. Didn't ask to hang out. I told myself he was just overwhelmed. Midterms were coming. But that voice, my voice, it whispered again. "He's slipping away." I waited 3 days. Then finally texted him. "Hey, everything okay?" He replied a few hours later. "Yeah, just swamped. Sorry." No heart emoji. No miss you. Nothing. And I knew. The shift had started. The story was changing. The girl who'd waited 7 years to be seen might be invisible again. I laid in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what I did wrong. Was I too much? Too little? Too late? But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't a happy ending. This was just another beginning of something I wasn't ready for, something that would hurt more than all those silent years combined. Have you ever felt someone slipping away, even while they were still holding your hand? Would you speak up? Or stay silent again? Let me know in the comments. And don't miss part 3. Because heartbreak is just around the corner. 3 days turned into 5. 5 into 7. And still, no call, no text, no "Hey, how are you?" It was like the universe had pressed pause on the only thing that ever felt real. And me, I just kept pretending. Pretending I wasn't checking my phone every hour. That I wasn't rereading our old messages like they were sacred scripture. Pretending I wasn't waiting to matter again. I saw Jake in the quad on a Thursday. He was with his friends, laughing, tossing a football around like everything was perfect. He looked so alive. And I felt like a ghost watching her own life play out without her. He didn't see me. Or maybe he did, and chose to look away. That night, I sat in the journalism lab long after everyone left. The editor had asked me for a feature piece, but all I could write about was him. I stared at the blinking cursor, whispering the same line in my head over and over. How do you write the truth when your heart only knows fiction? I didn't have the answer, so I just wrote about silence, about people who show up and then disappear. I sent it in anonymously, didn't even keep a copy. It was the only way I could let it go, or so I thought. 3 days later, the story was published under the title, "The Ghost Between Hello and Goodbye," and it spread like wildfire. People whispered in hallways. Professors praised the raw emotion. Someone even posted it to the campus forum. And suddenly, everyone was talking about the anonymous girl. The one who wrote about loving someone who stopped loving back. Jake texted me that night. "Did you write that piece in the journal?" My fingers froze over the keyboard. I stared at the message like it was a ticking bomb. And type, "Yeah." A moment later, "Can we talk?" I met him at the lake, the same spot where he first kissed me. But that night it felt colder, like the wind carried things we never said. He stood there with his hands in his pockets, that old hoodie half-zipped. Unsure, like maybe he'd come to say goodbye, or maybe he just didn't know how to stay. "I read it twice," he said. Waited. "It felt like you were saying goodbye," he added quietly. "I didn't know what else to do," I said. "You stopped talking to me." He looked down, kicked a pebble into the water. I didn't mean to hurt you. That was the first lie. Because silence is a choice. I got overwhelmed, he added. With school. With everything. I thought maybe we were moving too fast. There it was. Too much. The reason they always give when they don't want to say it's not you they want anymore. I nodded slowly, fighting the lump in my throat. So what now? Yes. He didn't answer right away. Just looked at me like he was searching for the right words to make it less awful. I still care about you, Emma. Do. But I think we need to slow down. There it was again. Slow down. Not stop. Not end. Just enough space for him to disappear without guilt. I tried to be brave. Tried to smile like it didn't shatter me. Okay, I whispered. Slow down. But everything inside me was already crashing. I walked away before he could see me cry. And that night, I wrote again. This time. Just for me. I wrote down every time he looked at me like I was magic. Every time he made me laugh. Every time I thought, this is it. This is how love begins. And then I burned the pages. 'Cause that's how love ends. Weeks passed. He didn't text. Didn't call. I stopped looking for him on campus. Stopped pretending he'd show up with that boyish grin and say, hey, sorry I was stupid. Does it? Focused on myself. Joined a poetry workshop. Took late-night walks with earbuds in and the volume too loud. Learned how to be alone again. But heartbreak, it lingers. It sits in the corner of your chest. Quiet. Until someone plays a song. Or wears his cologne. Or says his name in passing. And suddenly it's all back. The silence. The love that almost was. One afternoon I got a call from Sarah. My best friend since freshman year. Did you hear? She asked. Hear what? Jake and Maya are back together. Pause. Laughed softly. Not because it was funny. But because... Of course. She apologized like it was her fault. And I just said, it's fine. I'm fine. But I wasn't. Because there's something cruel about being someone's in-between. The girl who helped him feel again. So he could go back to the one who broke him. That night I deleted our pictures. Every text. Every voice note. Every screenshot of his good mornings. Like it never happened. Only, it did. And pretending otherwise didn't make it hurt less. Then, something unexpected happened. The school paper sent me an email. They wanted to feature my anonymous piece in the year-end literary magazine. And they wanted me to own it. Attach my name. I hesitated. Because it wasn't just a story. It was my story. My wound. My silence. But then I remembered something Jake once said. You write like you're not afraid of the truth. And maybe... He was right. Maybe it was time I stopped hiding behind metaphors. So I said yes. The day the issue came out, I walked past the campus bookstore. And there it was. Name. Printed in bold under the title. The Ghost Between Hello and Goodbye by Emma Clark. People stared. Whispered. Some smiled. Some nodded like they knew. But most of all, felt light. Like I had finally let go. Not of the memory, but of the weight it held. A week later Jake messaged me. Read your piece again. I'm sorry for how everything ended. You deserved better. I stared at the screen. But this time, I didn't reply. Because I finally understood. Closure isn't something they give you. Something you give yourself. I loved him silently for 7 years. Then he noticed me. Then he left. But what I learned was louder than anything he ever said. Some of being noticed isn't the same as being loved. And that heartbreak can be a beautiful kind of freedom. Have you ever been someone's in-between? How did you find your way back to yourself? Drop your story in the comments. And stay with me for part 4, where Emma's healing journey begins and maybe, just maybe, so does something new. Grief doesn't always come with sobbing. Sometimes it just sits in your chest. Heavy, quiet, undeniable. Like a shadow you forgot to notice was following you. The weeks after Jake's message were strange. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. Just drifted. Not forward. Not backward. Just somewhere in between the girl I was and the woman I was becoming. Fall gave way to winter. Campus turned to a palette of white and gray. And I started to thaw in places I didn't know were frozen. Began with small things. I changed my walk route. Stopped going by the coffee shop where he once said my laugh sounded like sunlight. Switched my order from a caramel latte to a flat white. Tiny rebellions. Little declarations of independence. I picked up a shift at the campus radio station. Late night slot. Low traffic. Mostly just music and ramblings. But it felt safe. Felt like mine. My voice. My words. My space. I called the show Quiet Hours. And slowly, people began listening. I talked about books. About campus events. About grief disguised as love. About how healing sometimes sounds like silence. I didn't mention Jake. Not directly. But the heartbreak was there. In every song choice. In every half-paused sentence. In the way I whispered into the mic like someone might be holding their breath on the other end. One night, a month after the literary issue dropped, got an email. Subject: Quiet Hours saved me. It was from a sophomore girl named Rachel. She said she'd been in love with her best friend for 2 years. Watched him date everyone but her. And still showed up to cheer him on. She wrote, "Hearing you talk about letting go made me feel like I could breathe again. Like maybe I'm not crazy for loving someone who never chose me." I stared at her words, hands trembling, 'cause somewhere out there, someone understood me, really understood me. Not because of Jake, but because of Emma, because I told the truth. Maybe that was enough. After that, the emails kept coming. Strangers, friends, even a professor who said the show reminded her of who she was before her divorce. Had become a voice. Not just background noise in someone else's story. And that's when it happened. A new name in my inbox. "Hey, I liked your segment on broken beginnings. Wanna grab coffee sometime?" Signed Liam. I didn't recognize him at first. But then I remembered. He was in my poetry workshop. Wavy dark hair. Quiet in class, but always listening like every word meant something. He always sat in the corner. 2 notebooks open. One for the professor's lecture. The other for whatever lived inside his head. I replied before I could overthink it. "Sure. Coffee sounds good." We met at a new cafe. One Jake never stepped foot in. Neutral ground. Fresh air. New energy. Liam ordered a black coffee with honey. Said it kept the bitterness honest. Smiled. That line alone deserved to be in a poem. We talked about writing. About why people are afraid to tell the truth in real life. But bleed it all out in verse. We laughed. Not because it was awkward, but because it wasn't. He didn't know me from a memory. He only knew me now. He asked about quiet hours. Said he could tell I'd been through something heavy. Shrugged. Told him heartbreak has a way of turning you into your real self. He nodded. And then said, "Well, I like the real you." Just like that. No games. No illusions. And I felt seen. Not as some dream girl he'd been chasing for years. But as a human. Flawed. Healing. Still figuring it out. That felt like breath after drowning. Over the next few weeks we kept seeing each other. Nothing serious. Just walks, bookstores, sharing favorite songs over hot tea. There were no promises. No heavy confessions. Just presence. And for the first time, that was enough. Then one night, he walked me home after a campus poetry reading. Snow was falling. Gentle. Silent. He paused at my doorstep. Took a slow breath. Then said, "You deserve something honest, Emma. When you're ready, I'll be here." He didn't try to kiss me. Didn't ask for more than I could give. And in that moment, I realized something. What I had with Jake was a fantasy. But what I was building now was a choice. Healing isn't linear. There were nights I missed Jake. Not him. Exactly. But the version of me that loved so deeply. She thought he'd never leave. The girl who believed in fairy tales, even after the book closed. And sometimes missing her hurt more than missing him. But then I'd go on air, say something soft, something small, something true, and someone out there would hear it and feel a little less alone. And that became enough. One Friday I got another message. This one, from Jake. I've been listening to your show. I don't know if it's about me, but if it is, I'm sorry. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry, but because I wasn't hers anymore. Not the girl who waited 7 years to be seen. Not the girl who gave pieces of herself just to feel wanted. No, I was the girl who chose herself. That was love too. So here's the truth I've learned. Sometimes, the love you spend years waiting for ends in silence. But if you're lucky, the version of you that rises from the ashes will be the loudest, boldest, freest you've ever been. He didn't call the next day, or the day after that, and I didn't text either. Not because I didn't want to, but because I was afraid of what I might find. Maybe it had all been a dream. Or worse, maybe it had been real and already over. I waited by my phone for hours. Replayed our conversation at the coffee shop like it was the last movie I'd ever get to see. His laugh. The way his eyes squinted when he smiled. How he leaned in when he talked to me. But silence grew between us again. The same kind I had lived in for 7 years. By Friday night I couldn't take it anymore. I opened his text thread. Blank. I started typing. Deleted it. Started again. Deleted that too. What would I even say? Hey, did I imagine all of it? I needed air. So I grabbed my jacket and left my apartment. The cold bit into my skin like a reminder. I was still here. Real. And he hadn't been a dream. I walked toward campus, half hoping to bump into him again. Like magic owed me one more miracle. The coffee shop where we met was closed. The library lights were off. And the streets were empty. As I rounded the old science building, I saw him. He was sitting on the edge of a concrete planter. Put up, hands clasped. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. My heart punched my ribs. Jake, said softly. He looked up. His eyes were red. Not from the cold, from something deeper. He stood quickly. Emma, hey. I took a step closer. Are you okay? He nodded. Too fast. Lang. No, you're not, I whispered. He ran a hand through his hair. Then finally said, I should have called. I know. I waited. And waited. Then he finally looked at me. My dad's sick, he said, voice cracking. My breath caught. He's got liver cancer, he continued. Stage 4. It's bad. I'm so sorry, I said. I didn't know. He nodded, wiping his eyes. We just found out last week. He didn't tell anyone at first. Didn't want us to worry. My heart dropped. All this time I thought he ghosted me. But life had blindsided him. And he'd carried it all in silence. Just like I had. For years. He looked at me again. I wasn't trying to disappear. I just didn't know how to act normal after that. You don't have to act normal, I said. You don't have to act anything. He smiled barely. But it was real. And something broke open between us again. Not like before. This time, it wasn't about daydreams. It was about being seen. And staying. We walked together that night. No destination. Just silence that felt warm, safe. I told him about my mom's anxiety. How we moved because she needed quiet. How I used to hide in books because people were too loud. He listened. Really listened. And when he talked, I didn't want to fix him. I just wanted to hold space. The way I wished someone had done for me. Years passed. 10 weeks. We talked almost every day. Sometimes just a few texts. Sometimes hours on the phone. But something was building. Slowly. quietly. And then one night, he kissed me. Not like in my old stories. Not under bleachers. Or in a perfect sunset. But in my car. Rain on the windows. A street light flickering above us. And when his lips touched mine, I didn't feel like a girl in love with a dream. I felt like a woman seen by someone who finally understood. We weren't perfect. There were hard days. Hospice visits. Hospital waiting rooms. Nights when he didn't say much. But I stayed. And he let me. One afternoon, I was sitting beside his dad's hospital bed. He was asleep. Jake leaned against the wall. I used to think no one ever really saw me, he said suddenly. I looked up. He smiled tired. But you did. Before I even knew it. I felt my eyes sting. You made me feel less alone, he added. I walked over to him. Wrapped my arms around his waist. And he buried his face in my hair. The day his dad passed, he didn't cry in front of anyone. To me. And I didn't say a word. I just held him. Because sometimes, love isn't loud. It doesn't scream through crowded halls. It doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes, love whispers. And when it finally arrives, it feels like a sunrise you waited years to see. A year later, we moved into a small apartment off campus. It wasn't fancy, but the light hit the kitchen counter just right every morning. And there were post-it notes on the fridge that read things like, "Got milk. Love you. Don't forget your interview, you'll crush it. Sometimes, you're still the one I see." I never told him the whole truth. About the journals. The stories I wrote about us back when he didn't even know my name. I don't think I ever will. 'Cause now, the real story is better than anything I ever imagined. I loved him silently for 7 years. Now, he loves me back. All out. Every day. And maybe that's what makes it real. Not how long you wait, but who's still standing when the waiting ends.